Hi, Aiken. No, I'm sorry.
Hi, Adrienne.
One second. Hello.
How are you? Um, Adrienne, are you available?
Yes, I am. What's up?
Okay. So I don't know. There's a ton of events today, like with the inauguration and just like lots of moving parts.
Sorry, hold on one second.
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead. Okay. All right. I'll talk to you. I'm on two phone calls. Hold on one second,
oh,
Addison. I'm just gonna
sorry.
get off the phone. Sorry. I'm trying to
No,
do two things at once.
no worries whatsoever. Um, but just let me know when you're available.
I am. I'm good. I'm good now.
Okay. So yeah, I was just saying that there's a lot of events today and kind of lots of moving parts. So you're the only partner in this meeting right now, which is
Oh,
okay.
okay. Yay. No, that means I
Yeah,
get private attention. I'm okay with that. Let's
you
chat.
do. Yeah, so this is actually a good opportunity because I do just kind of want to connect with you and hear your thoughts about like why specifically you're invested in the NRC and also just tell you like some of our the things that we're transitioning into, especially adjusting to the fact that Tasha Brim now has her whole UF Search program, um which is like it has backbone because it's in a UF like building, it's in an office, like
Yep.
it's kind of constant. And so the NRC's been kind of like pivoting, trying to figure out, okay, so there's a soul service program and they can have like the technology and the resources to really like pair volunteers in a sustainable way. And so we've been doing administrative stuff with them, like I've been working really closely with Tasha to write curriculum for like what sustainable volunteering looks like,
Mm-hmm.
and how like what ethical volunteering looks like and kind of in direct address to
All right.
complaints that
Let me address one thing for you,
yeah,
and that's just because I'm hands-on Gainesville and I think differently from most people in this community.
okay.
One of the biggest hurdles that my volunteer groups at UF have is all the the administrative hurdles that they have to go through to volunteer.
Mm,
Having said that, institutions like UF make it very legalese. And so I got this huge delay in all of these groups that wanted to work with me this year because they had this big push to pass that youth service whatever, which you had to do every year anyway, but they really made this huge push for everyone to pass the youth service protection classes, and then they really heavy hit them, and they didn't realize that the level that Hands on Gainesville runs their volunteers at is the minimum level because we are never alone with the kids. We always go into other organizations that themselves are alone with the kids and they already run their own, they do their own thing and we just enrich, right?
yeah.
So we had to clear the air with the administration at UF in their youth service protection to tell them that if one of the groups come from that are going to us, just tell them you're low level, just go because it was holding up everything. So the
Mm,
administrative stuff is really the thing that bogs down the volunteering services, which is
for
why I
sure.
really like NRC because you're outside the big box
Yeah,
administration. Do you
right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
I appreciate your training modules and things like that because I know that that is what you want to do. And if you could do them where they can be self-directed and kids could do them at their own time frame, like it's not like not everyone having to go in, then I think you keep it minimal, literally legal. You keep it minimal as what they can and what they can't do. And then you might try to say, we recommend that you only go to places that already have service in place that doesn't require you to be directly with kids. That way you limit that liability right away, right? You
Yeah.
could focus your group volunteers on the lowest level of service, so you're never alone with kids, right?
Yeah.
So all you do is assist other um organizations, basically,
Yeah.
because that's what you came on to do, right? You came on to be a part of our community.
Right. Um, yeah, so okay. So there's some we've kind of been pivoting a little bit to allow like the volunteer side of things to be more in Tasha's hands because she's setting up programs to try to break down those barriers of like legality and all of
I
these
know.
things. Um,
And I love her for that, but she works for UF.
yeah.
That automatically has hurdles. I know she's trying to do that, and I have been to some of uh her events,
Mhm.
but she's going through the institution of UF, and the thing that's beautiful about you guys is you're not,
Right. Okay. Um,
at
so
least to me.
yeah. So definitely, I mean, yeah, we try not to be. But we've been more like orienting towards doing sort of policy work and like advocating on behalf of our community partners for those needs that they say that they need from UF. So like, for example, in your case, you say, I have all of these barriers to getting volunteers. So NRC pairs with like student organizations. So one, get you guys volunteers and like really reaching out to them. But two, say we paired with like Florida Policy Forum and said, this is a major problem for our community partners in their relationship with UF and students at UF. What kind of policy can we do? Who can we get this in front of to say, okay, let's break down these barriers. Um, so we've been orienting more towards those like sustainable solutions and not just us like constantly on the ground trying to find volunteers.
I understand that that's a whole different direction that you're going in, but it's a worthwhile one, honestly, because if you can advocate for streamlining the volunteers, that they don't have to go through, well, they will have to go through the hoops, but at least you can tell them, you can help them navigate through the hoops. That's nice. But why is that any different from like what Tasha's doing, or what the leadership, the Browns leadership? I mean, like, why is that a different organization? Is what I'm asking.
Yeah, they really do. I mean, they work hand in hand. And we're trying to figure that out, but mostly NRC can be like grassroots efforts, like really going out and informing students about what those issues are without the political ties of having to like make the University of Florida look really good. Um, and so we can go out to students and say like, hey, this is a problem with UF. And we want you guys to be a part of the solution and join our coalition so that you can one, volunteer, two, stay informed about what our community partners need, and three, like utilize the resources that you have. So maybe you're really good at writing policy, or, I don't know, whatever it is. Sarah partners needed some like computer AI thing, and our people in our coalition recognized that and could address those needs directly without having to go through the UF hoops. But the problem is that these students that we're reaching are UF students, and
Right.
they're if there are resources, like I think that if we can like wrangle up resources from like that are supported by the university and also independent student resources, it's a lot stronger and more valuable than just like independent students going out on their own time and trying to,
Absolutely.
like if there's infrastructure in place to hold people accountable or something that they can like root into, then that's more valuable. And NRC doesn't
So
have the
where do you
credibility.
see your guys? where do you see your guys evolving to? Like what do you feel you can be most effective in the community doing? Being
That's
more I mean, like, because what if you worked so well? What if you have worked so well that there wasn't anything you didn't like about it? Like, what would you be doing?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the thing. I mean, I think the goal is to not have to have an NRC anymore, although I don't think that's ever gonna happen, but also just being a collaborative space where we can it's like the relationship part of the like infrastructure of volunteerism. So say Tasha sets up all of these teams with all of our different community partners, and students are just like uh on an email list and say that they want to sign up and be volunteers for something. And then we have an orientation and we volunteer match and whatever. NRC can facilitate not just that like numbers game of like sectioning off volunteers, but really like something like the spotlight series that we're doing where students really have the opportunity to come and like build those relationships, and us encouraging those like relationships to be sustainable and like personal.
All right, I'm gonna just throw because I'm here. So let me
Yeah.
just throw another idea out to you. I was just on the United Way Reading Council meeting. I belong to the United Way something something read. I don't know what it's called. It's called Coalition Reading something. I don't know.
Mhm.
Family literacy. It's something that deals with reading
Okay.
that I go to every month.
Yeah.
Um, and the United Way is very specific right now about trying to develop um, some way of identifying how well the Reading Council is improving the reading life of the community, right? So they're really big right now on evaluation.
Mhm.
And part of the issues with our smaller companies like mine when I first started out is trying to we go like in our community, but we don't ever stop to to verify that we don't have the data and statistics to verify that what we're doing is even really making a difference. But we know it is because we have the anecdotal. So you're in there in the trenches and you're too small to have that whole department that says, let's collect all the data, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think our small organizations would really love is a bunch of people who evaluate the efficacy or help them determine how to evaluate the efficacy of their programs in the community and has a warehouse that our community volunteers could go to that says these surveys are available or these mechanisms are available or these website ideas are available or these like to sort of study that aspect of the community involvement, and then the volunteers that you have would be the volunteers that would assist the community groups in showing that what they're doing is making a difference. And that way you could work with all of the community groups again as volunteers, but for a very specific purpose to literally help them show why they should, how they can get further grant monies from outside our community or why they're, effective in what they do or how they can go to the Children's Trust and say, look, we have this data, but that's something that we don't have departments for.
Yeah.
So for me, that would be a really excellent service that's separate from what Tasha's doing. She's coordinating the volunteers, which is great. But if you had a small select group of volunteers that was helping all of the smaller community people attract those volunteers because you could say like this is what they're doing or attract the bigger grants so that they could get more volunteers, or I mean, like that would assist. That would be separate from what Tasha does but assist us incredibly.
Yeah. Okay.
And I
So
could, I mean, I could connect you with the people at the Reading Council who are pushing for these kinds of evaluations because they themselves have this grant that is trying to show that that all this council that they put together of all these groups that are working together to increase the skills of reading in our community is working, but they're tasking each one of us, like, how are you evaluating this? How are you about? And then it's sort of like overwhelming for us because it's like we have enough to do to just do it rather than tell you what we're doing.
Actually
You know what
what
I
we're
mean?
doing. Yeah. So what would that look like for you? Like, would that be like like data collection, like software sort of
For
analytics
me, it would be
stuff?
a resource, a database resource. Like you would talk to all of the people who do evaluations to see what's available, so that if I came to you and I said, "Look, I'm trying to evaluate my commute, like what can I do?" And you could be there with all of these kinds of. I know that I have like I have some resources that I've gathered myself over the years. One of them is an NSF um grant person from the Museum of Natural History. So the big box organizations have people who write grants for them, and they have people who collect data for them, right? Like that's how they get the thousands and millions of dollars worth of grants. The little organizations in town don't, right? But they're willing to share some of them. Like I have a resource which was a person who wrote a paper on informal STEM education and a whole database lists of questions that are NSF approved to use, that you can select whatever you want to use to. So that sits with me right now and it sits with her, but no one else knows about it. So if there was a STEM organization out here that could go to you and say, "Hey, I'm looking for a way to do da da da," those evaluative measures would be open to you because you would have them. Like you would be the resource that would have the tried and true methods in town that work for data evaluation, and you could keep it under categories. Like your people who are STEM could keep the STEM ones, the people who are reading could keep the reading ones, and you could assist organizations in not only showing them what they could collect, but perhaps involving volunteers in actually going with them and providing that, like at the beginning of an outreach and at the end of an outreach, and tallying them, tallying the store, giving them a report, so that you are that branch, but you're the branch for all the little guys, not just an organization. That would be immensely helpful, at least for us, for grant purposes and for maintaining purposes. Like that's to us, that's sort of the lifeline to the next line of grants.
So let me just clarify with you. I'm hearing grants and I'm hearing a database of resources for like data evaluation. Can you clarify how those two things come together?
You don't get money unless you show that you can do something with that money, right?
Got Okay.
So, like when someone says to you, um, what have you done? You have to evaluate, well, I served this many kids. I improved the reading scores by this much. Um, my goal is to improve the reading to reach this many people, and I want a 30% increase, right? That's what you put in a grant. And then you evaluate it before and after. You don't necessarily need to meet your goal, but it's nice to say we met our goal, right? So the next grant comes out and you say, well, this grant, I tried to meet this goal. I met that goal tenfold. My program is working, right? So you should give me more. You should give me more money to evaluate the next grant that I do. This is my next idea, and I think I can reach this many children, and I think I can take them from not wanting to be a problem solver to wanting to be a problem solver in 6 weeks. Um, those are the kinds of real world data collection that we're in now, in the world of, everyone thinks science is the way to evaluate a program.
Mm.
But our little groups that are not associated with how to collect data scientifically are not part of that. They do, they do collect things, but they're going to always stay small or anecdotal if they don't have the help in doing that. And I really believe that that would be tremendous for especially our small startup nonprofits, because that is an area that they will eventually have to get to in order to really move and grow and show the community that, and that's what everyone asks for. But no, where do you go? It's so vague and so so specific to the organization, um, that you create it new every single time. Every organization creates it new. Wouldn't it be nice if they had a wealth of options to choose from that our community is using, that our community then could even evaluate programs because they could see the same kinds of evaluation programs going on, or they're using the same kinds of questions. I mean, wouldn't it be nice for our community to come together on what programs really are or not, doing what they're supposed to be doing?
Okay.
Just a
So
thought.
yeah, it's a really interesting thought because we want to, as Tasha's programs are coming in and as like kind of the landscape of nonprofit and community engagement with students and relationships are changing, we want to adjust to that. And okay, awesome, Sebastian. I took some notes on that too. So, also, Adreinne, let me introduce you. This is Sebastian Roca. Sorry.
Okay.
Um,
Hi,
he,
Sebastian.
Hello.
when I graduate in the spring, and kind of as like the new year rolls in general, Sebastian is going to be somewhat like taking over my role in the NRC, and he's going to be co-directing with another Path to Purpose fellow named Alana. And so this is really good for him to be here and listening to this because this like future vision will probably fall under his responsibility. But so anyway, yeah, this is really, really helpful to hear how we can pivot with you guys and with your needs. Not just like a meeting ground for nonprofits to come and network with like students, but how can we like take actionable steps to give you guys a resource that's really valuable? So
And I could send you to Darby, who is the person who is pushing that on the meeting. She was a University of Florida professor, who does the science of reading curriculum, and that's her literacy is her forte, and she is the one pushing evaluation. And one of the things that the leadership grant that the county that the United Way, our United Way got, which is a national grant, was to move the leadership forward into program evaluation, like their program evaluation. So that's why they're pushing it. And she is pushing it with all of the groups that are teaching, they're tutoring reading, they're giving out books. But they're varied, like they're very varied projects, and they all work on different aspects of the problem, right? So they're not going to be evaluated identically because that doesn't make any sense. But they should within themselves be evaluated as to whether it's working or not. Because if we're going to all work on the same problem, it would be really nice to know what's working, what's not working in, in
yeah,
in the problem solving process, right? And I think that
so
that's where Darby's going with that.
okay. So this is a new concept to me, so I have a lot of questions. But
Okay.
would NRC be, in your mind, would you envision NRC being the like the army of evaluators, like our volunteers are the ones going out
Or
and
the
doing the
keeper? How
evaluation?
about the keeper of the knowledge of our community on community evaluation of programs, and who has used what for what, and what questions are tried and true, and just sort of like the advisory resource for when a program comes to you and says, I this is what I do. How can I do this or this? Your students could say, oh, well, we have this and this and this and this available. And, we could send over that, or we could send out that survey to your mailing list, or we could, I mean, like you could be the groups that facilitate how an organization can do this.
Okay.
And it could just be as simple as here's a list of questions, or it could be, do you want us to set up a survey monkey? Because some of our groups, I mean, I'm tech savvy because I'm science, because that's what you do. But there are a lot of our groups in town that are volunteer groups, they're not tech savvy. And so setting up a survey monkey is like, huge for them, but it would be super easy. Like, here's my mailing list. How many resources you had? How happy are you with the fact that you got this done? Here's your evaluation. I mean, like,
Yeah.
and put it in your next grant. You know what I mean? Like that would, if you did that for them, in their name, obviously they would have to send you their mailing list, and there's a confidentiality issue, and you would have to work out those kinds of
Yeah.
concepts. You would have to have like relationships with each of the different organizations, but the small organizations I think could really use that. And as volunteers to this organization, you would be volunteering for those organizations, but in a more consultative way.
Okay.
So your group would be not just, hey, let's go pick up trash, or let's go pull weirds in a garden. It would be more like, hey, we're all well versed in evaluating programs. Let us help you.
Okay.
And people pay a lot of money for program evaluation. Like that's a big thing.
Yeah.
So if you're a small organization and you don't have $2,000 to hire a consultant to evaluate your program, you're not going to be in competition with like the CADE and the University of Florida.
Okay.
And that's what PRG was trying to help us with. They were that partnership that was saying there are smaller organizations here that are doing the job right in our community, but they can't compete with the major institutions because they don't have this overhead.
Yeah. So
You could
competing
be our
on,
overhead.
okay. Competing with like programmatic evaluations. You're saying there are other groups who try to do evaluations in our community?
We have consultants. Like there's this guy, there are people that are consultants that people call in to evaluate programs, and they'll be an outside and consultant. And if we receive a federal grant, we'll have to do that, right? But we don't have to do that unless there's certain contractual grants that require you to have an external evaluator. But we still need to tell people what we're doing. And, each of us keeps our own little spreadsheet that says, oh, I've been here 28 times, I've served this many students, I've had this many contact hours. Those are all evaluations of what our program is doing, why people in our community should sponsor us, because this is how active we are. If you see a program goes once a month and serves 5 people, or you see that there's a program that goes 3 times, 4 times a week, serves 200 kids, that's a different program, right?
Mm.
Now those 5 people could be really meaningful 5 people, and you could make the case for that. Or these 200 people could be superficial. I gave them books. I mean, they're way different. But
Yeah.
when you're going for a grant, you have to tell them what your goal is and whether or not you met your goal. And or like what's your track record, and then moving forward what you expect to do and how you want to check that. And it's not like it's not make or break for these institutions. It's just that if there is someone that helps them, because once they get a system in place, you may not need that's all you may need to do.
Mhm.
Get them a system in place, and then they can hand out the surveys, they can send their own links, they can do whatever they want, and you can move on to the next small organization that needs your help. And because we always have them popping up, um great. And then if let's say Children's Trust says to someone, I really like your idea, but I need some way of tracking it, they could say, hey, go to NRC, they can help you work on that aspect of measuring your efficiency, or measuring your effectiveness in the community. That would be sort of an amazing resource for
Okay.
us.
Okay. I think a lot of students at UF have that capability, and
I think they do. They're UF students.
yeah.
They're intelligent enough to understand that, and they're tech savvy. Those are the two aspects that you need. And then if you have a database of stuff, like if you start collecting a database of stuff by working with UF and working with evaluators and working with consultants on your side of it, you will have and not only that, the people that are volunteers with you, will not only see what all the organizations do, but they'll also have that next critical, because I'm all about mentorship and getting you actively involved in doing things in our community. You'll have that sort of policy concept of what does it mean to evaluate a program? How do you know something's working? Um, how do you distinguish between these two things? That's really a good training for the people that volunteer for you.
Yeah.
So even if you keep your organization, 20 and under, but you're serving, you know, 15, 20 small organizations, you're making a huge effect. And now you're separate from what UF is doing. You're not just collecting a whole bunch of volunteers, you're doing something with your
For them.
volunteers.
Yeah.
Right. So your training modules could be teaching people um, how to relate to the community organizers, how to evaluate their programs. That could be the training.
Okay. So the modules that I was referring to at the beginning of the meeting are mostly written, and they're for, I just wrote a policy proposal so that like addressed to President Van Sass or whatever. And asking for the implementation of these modules in UF service learning across the board. And then also asking for funding for the community partners that were involved in the modules. So that's kind of what we've been working towards in the NRC recently, is like advocating, as I said, like on behalf of our community partners to the University of Florida and
Which is perfect.
Yeah,
This is the same thing. It's
yeah,
just a different module.
just, yeah. So I will say right now, I have very little expertise in programmatic evaluation. And Sebastian, I don't know about you, but we would really, I mean, this is a fantastic idea and a great pivot to address needs that our partners have now. And I think NRC, being an independent organization, is in a position to be able to make that pivot. But like that's not something that we can just jump into. We really need to.
No, but if I connect you to Darby, because she's connected to United Way, that may be also be a partner that you could partner with to help them,
Okay.
is what I'm thinking. Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking that Darby wants this to happen for all the people in her group. If she works with you and you can help all the people in her group establish it, then she gets what she wants by helping you. That's a
Yeah.
win-win-win.
Yeah. I'm also
I'm
wondering.
all about win-win-win.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we could definitely search for her and get her in contact with people at UF, like who do consulting or data analytics or whatever, like
Well, Darby,
majors.
you would want to talk to her first. How about I say up an email? I'll call her first and I'll say, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think about the idea? If she says stupid, I will tell you she's not in. If she
Okay.
says, oh, that might work, I'll say to her, do you think that you could work with NRC and get this done? Because I personally, I mean, I was on this phone call this morning. Let me just explain this phone call. One of the parts of the meeting was, how are you evaluating what you're doing and you're reading in your programs? So one person went on for 25 minutes, basically, okay, that's an exaggeration, but it was a long time,
Yeah.
basically telling us how she was trying to find places to give away books.
Okay.
Well, that had nothing to do with evaluating her program, even though she wants to give away books to keep people in the community. Maybe the number of people, now she's only a month old, so she's a new program, and maybe the number of books that she gives out is fine because that's an evaluation. Like I gave out this many books to kids from for 0 to 12, or my volunteers worked with 20 parents on why they should read to their infants. those are two evaluative methods, but they're both in line with her goals, right? Those are both things which, but all she should have said was, we're looking, if she said we're looking to set up evaluative methods, Darby could have said, hey, go to NRC. They can help you figure out. Do you see what I mean? Like, and then we stop the meeting there and the next person gets to talk. But instead, we go through the next person who talking about how wonderful it is that these kids who are reading can now learn 30 more sight words. So someone could have said, we're evaluating the number of sight words at the beginning and the end of the program. I mean, because we went to NRC and they said that this is a good choice for us.
Gotcha.
Our meeting could have gone like like this, and people could see all the different choices of how they could do their program. It would have been a lot more streamlined, and it is something that smaller groups need.
Yeah,
That's just my thought.
I personally think this is a direction I can take it in. I work with a lot of like social impact consulting groups, and then also I know a lot of data analytics groups. So I think, yeah, connecting us with Darby would be a good idea to know what she's thinking. And then going from there to evaluate how we can actually feasibly make it happen with the NRC. But I think like individually, this is something I can focus on too. So just my skill level.
And I'm not trying to push you into it. I'm just telling you where I see right now is it's a need for our organization. We're struggling with it. We're struggling with all the different weird things that we do and how to explain to the community what we do and how we do it. So I know it's a personal issue, but I've also seen it on United Way as all those organizations who are they're all teaching reading.
Yeah.
And they do it 50 ways to Sunday, and they're having, they're not agreeing on like what those things are and how can our community evaluate that. Like, we're all potshot.
Yeah.
It would be really nice to, I don't know, to be able to have some source to go to help us evaluate our programs, because it is the way of the world.
Yeah, that makes sense. This is a really cool thought and direction, totally different and new, but I think that the NRC was founded to address like initially volunteer issues in the community and address that, like our community partners are saying, hey, when we get volunteers, they're unprepared, they're uneducated, etc. We've created modules there with Tasha. We've used the community resources to do so. And now I feel like maybe our time in that, we kind of like use the resources that we have to
you've pushed.
Yeah.
I will guarantee that the fact that you existed with this PRG grant pushed UF into getting Tasha. It has to have.
Yeah.
Because they were seeing a need.
Yeah.
And they addressed the need. So you've already solved that problem.
Yeah, I think, and I think there's more systems in place that are going to be put there to continue to solve the problem sustainably. And I think now this would be a good direction for us to move in. Because it's gonna work hand in hand still with what Tasha's doing, like volunteer programs and working with all of these different partners, but just giving
so she'll
them,
get all these volunteers, and then what are they doing with them? And what are they doing? Can they grow? Well, they can't if they don't show that the volunteers are helping them. I mean, like, this is going to help her program too, because if she sends volunteers to this program and then the program can grow significantly because they're showing results, that it's a win-win. I mean, it's just another piece that I think is missing. The volunteers were definitely the thing that was missing, but you fix that by just being who you are.
Okay.
I think the awareness that issue existed, because I don't know how many times I've said NRC, NRC, NRC to all these different groups that I work with, and people were like, well, who's that? I said, they're a group of UF volunteers. And they're like, but I thought there was a UF volunteer group, organization. No one knows how to contact them. I'm like, yeah, but we don't have to do that. You just go here and you get direct link to students. That cuts, we're all about cutting out the institutional bulk,
Right.
you know, that
So,
kind of thing.
yeah,
And so I think that's kind of nice.
okay.
I mean, that's why small organizations are small organizations. They don't like the administrative and institutional bulk. They
Okay.
just want to do things for the community.
Right. Okay. So then moving forward, then we're kind of leaving the volunteer portion of it to Tasha and to Egan, who's now, sorry to introduce him. He's on
You're
a
leaving the volunteer coordination to them,
coordination. Okay.
but you're getting volunteers to your organization to volunteer still in all the organizations, but for a different purpose,
Okay. For a specific
for a
purpose.
focused purpose.
I got you. Okay.
If that's what you choose to do, and of course you obviously have to discuss this yourselves, because please don't feel pushed into it because I
Yeah,
suggested it. I'm just giving ideas.
no, not pushed into it, but this is I'm really glad that we got this one-on-one discussion. And as Sebastian and Alana and I kind of worked together to like, you know, push NRC in a direction for the years to come. We're gonna be meeting with other partners, like really specifically and reaching out to them. And so we'll keep this like very much on the table. And then also, and as kind of a direction that we would really want to go. And then as we're meeting with these other partners, like bring this up to them, ask them how, what would this impact be on you guys, and what else could we do, if anything, that would be helpful? Like how can, we'll come up
And
with
I would be
something.
interested in what they say, because
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to me if other people are having the same issues that I
Okay.
see.
Okay. Yeah. If anything, this is something that we could, if we're not going to take this on as like our distinct mission, then we can definitely help connect you to university resources that can help with program evaluation.
That would be perfect.
Let me do some research in general and try to get some answers to you really soon. We have the professor who is studying our like volunteer modules, because there's an evaluation like mechanism for those modules. She might be really interested in trying to help you guys do this, or help us.
And who is that?
Some Dr. Sarah Bush. She's in the College of Agricultural Communications and Education. If you want me to set up a meeting between the three of us, or Sebastian, NRC, and you and Sarah, we could do that, because she's really good at this stuff.
Do you know, remember when PRG was very directly involved with you, and they had that one guy whose name I fail. He was doing program evaluation.
I don't know.
I don't remember his name.
Okay, find guy from PRG.
He was a grad student, I think, that was working with PRG.
Is it
and he
Willie
talked to
Ortiz?
us
Willie Ortiz?
maybe.
He was working
Maybe
with Carissa.
he is Hispanic. He was with Carissa.
Okay,
He
it's
was
probably Willie.
really energetic, and as he was Hispanic, he was really energetic, and he did a training class on setting goals and evaluating your goals, kind of thing, at some conference at Bishop, a PRG meeting thing at Bishop a while ago.
Let me share my screen really quick, because this is Willie.
Okay.
Is this him?
No, but no,
Okay.
no. But let me. I can probably get you his name, but let me see. I'll just Google PRG and we'll see where that takes me. I'm looking for a name. Carissa networking event.
Also looking.
Oh, there's Brandy. It's when Brandy was with her, so that's a long time ago.
It's not Andrew Tejas, is it? He was not a grad student.
No, that's no.
Okay.
No, he was worth, this guy worked, maybe,
I honestly do not know. That might have been more when Jeremy was here.
yeah, probably. It was a while ago. It's not Armand, that's the other thing. This is like, hmm. I'm sorry, I'm not really seeing, I have his worksheets here. I just don't see his, maybe it's not in this email, maybe it's a different one. But anyway, he's not here anymore, I don't think. He's probably a grad student that has moved on.
Okay.
Mm.
But I can I'll do some research. My first step is gonna be contacting Sarah Bush, and also talking to Tasha about all of this and seeing how we could work together. And then the NRC, like Alana Sebastian and I will definitely be reaching
Omar.
out to partners. Omar
Yes,
Hernandez.
Hernandez, yes.
Oh, he was in my Path to Purpose cohort, so um I can get in touch with him.
Yep, that was the guy that was going to be working with us on evaluating or working with goals, and so that was his evaluation was his forte.
Okay. I'll reach out to him and see what kind of resources he knows about. But yeah, so okay. If NRC created like like standard survey questions, is that, or like in partnership with people who actually know what they're doing, like students and faculty?
They would have to be field specific. There are general questions like that you could do, but you don't need to create. The thing about it is they exist and you just need to collect.
Okay.
Most questions are really market tested.
Mhm.
Um, they're written for unbiased
Okay.
viewpoints to come through and evaluations. So it's just really a resource of like a database resource of what's available that is tried and tested and true.
Mm.
And then perhaps pulling from that, teaching people how to pull from that to listen to what the organization needs and then pull from those tried and true questions to produce tailored evaluation techniques or formats or something like that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Okay. Sebastian, that resonates with you. Okay. Okay. Taking notes, Adrienne.
That's okay.
Okay. So I think we have a lot to think about and talk about. We'll definitely stay in touch with you about all of this and kind of, your advisory.
And do
if
you want me to reach
can,
out to Darby
yes, if
and
you
see
can
what
reach
she
out,
says about the concept?
if you can reach out to Darby, that would be great. And I will reach
Okay.
out to Sarah, and see what kind of resources she knows about and get this conversation really rolling in a lot of different, at a lot of different tables, I guess. So
And
yeah.
I will be your first client.
Perfect. We'll need that. Awesome.
I could be your prototype because
Okay.
I could really use a sounding board and a thought team on this because it's what I'm going through as we speak.
Okay. Honestly, just off the top of my head, Sarah teaches courses on all of this stuff, I think. And I'm wondering if her students as like projects could create some sort of evaluative measures for you guys. Specifically, Sarah's really into community involvement and outreach, so I'm sure that that's something she'd be into. And let me talk to her and see, because that might be something we can resource you guys with like pretty immediately.
That would be lovely if you could
Okay.
do that. And I will talk to Darby to see if United Way reading literate. Oh my gosh, what's it called? The Community Literacy Council. I think that's what it's called. I don't know. It has literacy. It has council.
Okay.
It has reading. It's got to be something like that. But I will see if she feels like that would be helpful for the smaller partners that are all involved in that. And maybe she could get this other grant. They've got this huge grant. They were chosen actually by this national corporation to help evaluate their coalition of programs in their community. And there's like a core leadership group that meets with this training. I don't know. It's like multi-layered. But anyway, I think that they would be on board at least with the education part of it, if not you guys coming up with it. Like maybe one direction, or I don't know if the other direction, I don't know. I'm gonna ask her.
Egan said Dr. Joyce. Okay. Egan.
Kristen Joyce?
Yes. Dr.
Yeah,
Joyce.
I do. I work with her.
Yeah.
Yes.
Grant writing class. Students learn by writing grants for local community partners. Okay.
Yeah, I work with her on her students have worked with me before, and yes, that. The only problem with that, I'm just gonna give you all the details.
Please do. Yeah.
They're learning. So you teach them more than they teach you. When you're doing something like that as a like you as a business partner, take them through a learning curve before they can give you what you want. And sometimes that is more time consuming than the small business person has the time to do, which is why sometimes people don't do it. So while I will continue to always support Kristen Joyce, I consider it me giving community service to her as opposed to her giving community service to me sometimes, because unless you get a really good group of students, that's you waste your time.
Yeah. So then NRC
But I mean,
teaching
you don't waste your time. You help people. You're just not getting anything for you.
So then NRC teaching students how to do those evaluative measures. Are you wanting them to grant write as well? Maybe not.
I'm not well, I mean, sure, if they want a grant write, that's great. But part of the grant, the hardest part of the grant is the part
collecting
that says
data.
Yeah, selecting testable goals. You know what I mean? Like that part of the grant process, there always has to be an evaluative measure that goes along with the goal that you're trying to achieve. And that link up, you can create it yourself, but I know they're out there, like, and to just sit and, I had to do a lot of research to get the informal STEM education questions that I got, and I got them by accident by talking to someone and trying to go on a grant with them, and then they were just nice enough to give me a database of questions. I mean, like, that's not normal for how people do it, right?
Okay.
And so I know that other small businesses would certainly welcome that help.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay, we're gonna get to work. Thank you so much, Adreinne, for your time and your thoughts and pouring into NRC as we're trying to pour back into our community.
I love what you guys are doing. You know that I support you 100%. I think that anytime that you can be students and also be active members of the community, you're already winning. So,
awesome.
And I love what you're trying to do. And I love the fact that people are trying to support what you're trying to do. So I think it's great. So I'm all in.
Awesome. Thank you.
Anything I can do.
It. We appreciate that so much. Okay, I'll be in touch with you and I'll look out for your email connecting us to Darby.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you
so much. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.